The alien arena buzzed with noise as thousands of species gathered to watch the new competitor, a human. To most of them, humans were myths whispered about in Deathworld stories told to scare younglings, small, fragile, soft-skinned creatures from a toxic blue planet. Nothing about them looked dangerous. When the human stepped into the light, the laughter began immediately. He was smaller than most species there. His frame looked light, his armor simple. Even his movements were quiet. The announcer, a tall insectoid with golden mandibles, introduced him with mockery. "Behold the Deathworlder from Sol, so tiny, so weak, so doomed." The crowd erupted in cheers and cruel laughter. But the human didn't react. He only stood still, eyes calm, as if the noise didn't even exist. Beside him walked his pet. The creature padded forward silently, its white fur glowing under the arena lights. It looked like some mix between a wolf and a big cat, its eyes burning with teal fire. The aliens in the front row shifted uncomfortably. Something about the beast's gaze made their instincts scream. It didn't snarl or roar. It just looked like it already knew who the prey was. The alien warlord on the opposite side laughed, his massive frame covered in armor plates. Behind him, cages opened, and a roar shook the air. His war beast, a monstrous predator bred from 100 battle species, stomped forward. 10 meters tall, armored hide, claws like blades. It had crushed entire platoons in the war pits. The crowd screamed in excitement. The alien warlord raised his arms and shouted, "Let the galaxy see what true power looks like." The human's expression didn't change. He knelt down beside his companion and whispered something no one could hear. The white creature's ears twitched, and it gave a low, rumbling growl that made even the warlord's beast hesitate for half a second. Cameras zoomed in on the human's face. He looked too calm, too quiet. That calmness was terrifying. When the signal horn blared, the alien war beast charged, tearing through the metal floor. The ground cracked under its weight. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for the human to run or scream. But he didn't move. Instead, his pet stepped forward, slow, confident. The two predators stared at each other across the battlefield, one massive and armored, the other smaller but radiating a deadly stillness. The war beast roared and lunged. The human's creature didn't roar back. It simply vanished from sight, a flash of movement, too fast for most cameras to track. The next sound was a screech of pain. The alien war beast staggered, bleeding from a deep gash along its neck. The laughter in the crowd died instantly. The warlord barked commands, disbelief in his voice. His beast tried again, claws swiping, teeth snapping, but it was hitting nothing but air. The white predator was everywhere and nowhere, a blur of glowing eyes and sharp motion. Within seconds, the larger creature fell, its legs collapsing under its own weight. Silence filled the arena. The human finally looked up. "Stay," he said softly. The word echoed strangely in the comms feed. His pet froze instantly, breathing heavily but calm again. The massive alien war beast lay on the ground, whimpering, a creature bred for killing, reduced to fear. The alien warlord's mandibles trembled. He stepped back, shaking his head in disbelief. Impossible. That was a prototype war predator. "It can't lose." The human didn't answer. He only walked toward his creature and placed a hand on its head. The glowing eyes dimmed slightly like a machine powering down. Then he turned toward the warlord and said quietly but clearly, "You laughed at the wrong thing." The translation system carried his words to every corner of the arena. For the first time, the galaxy understood what human confidence looked like. It wasn't rage. It wasn't pride. It was quiet certainty. The alien crowd, once roaring with laughter, now sat in silence. Some of them were trembling. Others were recording every second, already realizing this footage would spread across the systems by dawn. The human didn't care. He looked up at the sky above the dome, the cold blue light of alien stars, and whispered something to himself, a word from his own language no translator could capture. His pet pressed closer, protective, loyal, alive. The warlord lowered his weapon, his voice breaking. "What? What are you?" The human looked at him, eyes calm as ever. "Just someone who takes care of his friends." And as the arena lights dimmed, the cameras kept rolling, capturing the moment that would ignite a legend. The day the galaxy learned that size meant nothing, and loyalty could be more terrifying than any weapon. The arena floor still smelled of scorched metal and blood. The silence was heavy, like the air itself was afraid to move. The crowd that had mocked and jeered minutes ago now watched in disbelief. Some stared at the white creature as it licked its paw, calm as a sleeping storm. Others whispered, trying to understand how the galaxy's strongest war beast had fallen so easily. The alien warlord still stood frozen, his heavy armor trembling as if it had suddenly become too heavy to bear. His beast, once the pride of his army, lay unmoving. The human stepped forward slowly, his boots leaving soft echoes on the metallic ground. Each step sounded louder than thunder in that silence. He stopped in front of the warlord and looked up, because even standing straight, the human only reached the alien's chest. But somehow, it was the warlord who looked small now. The human's calm voice cut through the air. "Next time," he said, "don't laugh at something you don't understand." Then he turned away, resting his hand on his pet's neck. The creature leaned into the touch like a loyal guardian, its glowing eyes dimming into soft light. Together they walked out of the arena tunnel. The massive gates hissed shut behind them, leaving the crowd in uneasy silence. When they reached the hallway outside, alien reporters and security drones swarmed. Microphones flashed. Questions flooded the air. "Was that a weapon? Is that creature sentient? Are humans building predators for war?" The human didn't answer. He just kept walking. The white creature growled low whenever a drone got too close. And every time it did, the machines backed away, as if their own circuits sensed the danger. Back in the control room above the arena, the Galactic Council's observers replayed the footage in silence. High-ranking officials, beings who ruled empires, watched frame by frame as the human's pet moved faster than their sensors could register. The scientists muttered among themselves. "It shouldn't be possible. That speed, that precision, even our engineered predators can't do that." One of the counselors, a cold reptilian female with silver eyes, turned to her aide. "Find out what planet that creature comes from, and find out how many more of them exist." The aide hesitated. "Ma'am, that creature comes from Earth." The counselor froze. The word hung in the room like a warning. Everyone knew Earth's reputation, unofficially classified as a Deathworld, a planet where evolution was violence made natural. Few dared visit, and fewer returned. Down in the locker corridor, the human sat on a bench, quiet and still. His pet sat beside him, tail curling neatly across the floor. It looked peaceful now, almost gentle, but the armor plates on its back still glowed faintly. The human took a small device from his pocket, a worn-out data chip, and stared at it. A recording of his home, long gone. He sighed softly. "They don't get it, buddy," he murmured to his pet. "They think size matters. They think fear is something they can measure." The creature tilted its head and made a low, rumbling sound, half growl, half purr. The human smiled faintly. "Yeah, I know. You didn't like that big lizard either." Outside the locker bay, soldiers began to gather. Alien warriors, guards, officials. None dared enter, but all wanted to see the tiny human and his beast. The news had already spread. Across the stars, broadcasts replayed the footage with dramatic commentary. "Human defeats Zarnian war predator in under 60 seconds. New species of apex beast discovered linked to Sol system. Galactic Council to investigate potential Deathworld threat." But the human didn't care about fame or fear. He was here for something else. From down the hallway, a metallic voice called out, "Human, you are summoned by the Council." He looked up, eyes calm again. "Of course," he said. Then he stood, stretching a little. His pet rose beside him, muscles rippling under its glowing fur. Every alien watching took an unconscious step backward. The creature's eyes flickered like twin stars in the dark. As they walked toward the council chambers, the corridors grew silent. The other species stared but said nothing. The air was thick with unease. No one dared mock now. The laughter from before was gone, swallowed by the memory of a single strike that changed everything. Inside the council chamber, the leaders of 10 species waited. Their holograms filled the room like hovering gods. The reptilian counselor leaned forward. "Human," she said slowly, "you have caused quite a disturbance today." The human stood straight, his companion at his side. "You invited me," he replied simply. "And this?" "Creature," the counselor hissed. "You call it a pet?" He looked down at the glowing eyes beside him and smiled faintly. "I call it family." The chamber went still. The translation AI hesitated on that word, family. To most of the galaxy, it was just a biological term. But from a human, it meant something far more dangerous. The counselor's silver eyes narrowed. "Your family just killed our most powerful war beast. Why should we not consider that an act of aggression?" The human's expression didn't change. "Because it attacked first," the alien leaders whispered among themselves. No one had ever spoken to the council with such calm defiance. No fear, no trembling. Just truth. The reptilian leaned back, tapping her claws together. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "Earth deserves a closer look." The human's pet growled softly, a sound that vibrated through the chamber walls. The council guards immediately raised weapons, but one glance from the human made them freeze. "If you go to Earth," he said quietly, "just remember, everything there bites back." The chamber filled with uneasy silence. The human turned and walked out with his creature beside him. The doors sealed behind them, leaving the council in stunned silence. The galactic council chamber stayed silent long after the human had gone. The echoes of his words, "everything there bites back," seemed to hang in the air like a warning no one wanted to admit they'd heard. Finally, one of the counselors broke the silence. "He's dangerous. That creature is dangerous," another hissed in reply. "No, he's worse than dangerous. He's proof that the old stories about Earth were true." Screens flickered to life across the galaxy. News channels replayed the footage of the arena fight again and again. Every angle showed the same thing. A tiny human, calm and quiet, and his glowing predator moving faster than any machine could follow. Commentators spoke with excitement and fear. "If one human can do this, what if there are more?" In laboratories and war academies, alien scientists paused their work to study the recording. The creature's movement defied known physics. Its strength didn't match its size, and its reaction time exceeded any known predator. They slowed the video to frame by frame and still couldn't understand it. "It's not possible," muttered a scientist with trembling hands. "It's as if evolution itself built that thing for killing gods." Meanwhile, the human and his companion walked through the spaceport corridors in silence. The metallic floors gleamed under the soft neon lights, reflecting the white fur and the faint blue glow of the creature's markings. Aliens cleared the path ahead of them without being told. No one wanted to meet the creature's eyes. The human stopped near a docking bay window and stared at the stars. His pet sat beside him, tail flicking once, alert but calm. "They're afraid of you now," he said softly. The creature turned its head slightly, almost questioning. The human gave a tired smile. "Good. Maybe they'll stop trying to test us." Behind them, a small figure approached carefully, a young alien technician holding a data pad. Her voice trembled. "Sir, the council requests your presence again. They want to discuss a treaty." He didn't turn around. "A treaty?" he repeated. "Or an interrogation?" She didn't answer. Her hands shook. The white beast growled low, a sound that made the lights above flicker. The technician froze. The human sighed and gestured slightly. The creature went silent again, its glowing eyes softening. "Tell them I'll come," he said finally, "but only if they remember who started the war in that arena." The technician nodded quickly and hurried away. Later, in the council's private chamber, The alien leaders spoke behind closed doors. "We can't let this continue," said the reptilian chairwoman. "If one human can destroy a war beast, imagine what a human army could do." "But there is no human army," replied another. "Their planet was isolated centuries ago." The chairwoman's eyes narrowed. "Then perhaps it's time we see why." She turned to her aide. "Send a reconnaissance fleet to Earth, quietly. We need to understand what kind of world breeds something like that." The aide hesitated. "And what if the stories are true? What if the planet itself is hostile? Then," the chairwoman said coldly, "we'll see what their definition of hostile really means." Back on the docking platform, the human leaned against a supply crate, watching technicians prepare ships for departure. His pet rested beside him, breathing slowly, like a living engine. "You smell it too, don't you?" he said quietly. The creature's ears twitched. "They're planning something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver tag, scratched and old. A name was engraved on it. Luna. He rubbed the letters with his thumb. "You've saved me more times than I can count," he murmured. "Guess we're not done yet." Luna, the name of the beast, lifted her head, eyes glowing brighter, scanning the corridor. A group of soldiers passed by quickly, pretending not to look. Fear hung in the air like static. Somewhere deep inside the station, engines began to hum. A fleet was preparing to leave. The human watched the distant stars and felt something shift. They had mocked him, called him small. Now they were about to learn that humanity's size had never mattered, because what lived inside humans, and beside them, was far larger than any alien could imagine. He looked at Luna and smiled faintly. "Let them come. Maybe they'll finally understand what a real predator looks like." The beast growled softly, a low rumble of agreement. The sound rolled through the metal floor like thunder from a world the galaxy had forgotten to fear, and somewhere, across light years of distance, Earth turned silently in the dark, waiting. The reconnaissance fleet left the galactic station in silence. 10 ships glided through the void, their engines burning a soft blue trail. Every officer on board had heard the story: the tiny human, the impossible beast, the fallen war predator. Curiosity mixed with fear. They told themselves they were explorers, not invaders. But everyone knew what this mission truly was. A test. Captain Varick, commander of the lead vessel, sat in his chair and studied the glowing planet ahead. "So this is Earth," he said quietly. It looked harmless. A small blue world wrapped in white clouds, drifting peacefully in space. "Hard to believe this place breeds monsters," he muttered. His science officer adjusted her console. "Atmosphere unstable. Oxygen levels too high for most species. Radiation pockets? Intense. Gravity's heavier than standard. Uninhabitable by most life forms," Varick said. "And yet humans thrive here." He leaned forward. "Send a drone to the surface." A small probe shot downward, breaking through the clouds. For a few seconds, the screens filled with static. Then the image cleared. The crew gasped. The drone's camera showed endless forests swaying in the wind, mountains wrapped in storms, rivers cutting through deep valleys. But it wasn't the landscape that froze them. It was the movement, eyes glinting in the shadows, countless shapes watching the drone. The computer marked hundreds of life forms, each large, fast, and predatory. "Is that normal?" the officer whispered. "Impossible," Varick said. "This planet shouldn't sustain that many apex species at once." The drone moved lower. Something massive moved below the trees, a shape with dark fur and glowing eyes. The drone scanned it. Classification, unknown. Energy output, high, movement speed. The feed cut out, silence, then static. Then a single image before transmission died, 2 glowing eyes staring straight into the drone's lens. The communications officer turned pale. "That thing looked at us, like it knew we were watching." Another officer laughed nervously. "Probably interference, Captain. Maybe some atmospheric distortion." But the captain said nothing. He just stared at the screen, the reflection of the destroyed drone still frozen in the display. A second later, alarms blared. "Proximity alert! Something's flying toward us fast!" The crew rushed to the viewport. A massive shape burst through the clouds, wings spread wide, body shimmering with electric blue streaks. It wasn't a ship. It was alive by the stars, the officer whispered. That's a living organism the size of a cruiser. The creature screamed past them, its wings slicing through the upper atmosphere. The shockwave rattled every hull in the fleet. Then it vanished back into the clouds. Captain Varric stood slowly. "Turn us around," he ordered. The helm officer hesitated. "Sir, you heard me," Varric snapped. "Turn us around. This world isn't ours to study." The fleet began to pivot, but the radar screens lit up again. Countless red dots appeared, closing in fast. Swarms of flying creatures, faster than any known ship. They moved in perfect coordination, herding the fleet like wolves surrounding prey. "They're organizing," the science officer said. "They're working together." Varric clenched his fists. "Impossible. No predators cooperate like that," the ship's AI replied coldly. "Correction. On Earth, they do." The swarm closed in. Shadows passed over the hull. The crew could see them now. Feathered, scaled, furred, all shapes and sizes with intelligent eyes glowing in the dark. "Open a channel," Varric ordered. His voice was shaking now. He stared at the camera, speaking into the void. "This is Captain Varric of the Galactic Council. We mean no harm. We come in peace," a voice answered. Not from any translator, but through their comm system directly. It was calm, human, and familiar. "You shouldn't have come." The crew froze. "That voice," one whispered. It was the same human from the arena. His image appeared on the main screen, standing somewhere on the surface. The same white creature stood beside him, glowing brighter than before. "I told you everything here bites back," he said. "You didn't listen." Varric swallowed hard. "We didn't come to fight," the human smiled faintly. "Neither did I, but if you want to test Earth—" He looked down at his companion. "Then you'll meet more than just her." The feed cut out. The ships shook as radar signals overloaded. From orbit, the crew watched the planet's surface light up, thousands of heat signatures moving in unison, like an army of beasts rising from the forests. The science officer whispered, This planet is alive." The captain closed his eyes. "No," he said softly. "It's defending itself." The fleet retreated, engines flaring, leaving the blue planet behind. From the viewport, Earth looked calm again, silent, untouched. But everyone aboard knew the truth. Nothing about that world was calm. Deep below the clouds, the human stood on a ridge overlooking the ocean. His companion Luna sat beside him, eyes watching the sky. He smiled faintly. "Guess they finally saw what you're capable of." The beast rumbled softly like thunder. The human looked up at the stars. "They'll be back," he said. "They always come back." He reached out, resting his hand on Luna's head. "Then we'll be ready." The waves crashed below, and somewhere in the forest behind them, something enormous roared. An echo that rolled through the wind like the voice of Earth itself. When the fleet limped back to the galactic station, their ships were half burned and their crews silent. The docking bay workers stood frozen as the first vessel's ramp lowered. Soldiers stumbled out, pale and shaking. None of them spoke. Their eyes told the story. What they'd seen on that blue world had rewritten their understanding of life itself. Captain Varric walked out last. His armor was cracked, his voice gone. He didn't salute, didn't report. He just handed the council recorder to the nearest guard and said one word: "Run." In the council chamber, the leaders gathered to watch the footage. The holograms filled the room with the image of Earth's surface. Storms colliding across oceans, forests crawling with unseen movement, skies full of flying predators so vast they blocked sunlight. And then, at the center of it all, one human and his white companion standing as if they ruled the planet. When the video ended, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, the reptilian chairwoman whispered, "We angered a world that does not need spaceships to conquer the stars." A nervous ambassador croaked, "We must prepare defenses." "Against what?" Another hissed. "They never attacked us. They defended themselves." Whispers spread through the chamber. Some wanted war. Others wanted silence. None wanted to go back. Across the galaxy, rumors exploded. In the slums of mining colonies, aliens spoke in hushed tones about the Deathworlders. Merchants printed fake souvenirs of the human's face. Soldiers swapped stories in dark barracks. They say his pet moves faster than light. They say Earth itself chooses who survives. The human had become something more than a name. He was a warning. Meanwhile, far away on Earth, the man and his beast walked along a rocky shore under a blood-red sunset. The waves struck hard, but he didn't flinch. The air smelled of salt and lightning. Luna padded beside him, her glowing fur catching the last light of day. "They'll come again," he said softly. "Fear always brings them back." Luna made a low sound, half growl, half sigh. Her sharp eyes scanned the dark horizon where stars were starting to bloom. "They don't understand," he continued. "They think we're monsters because we survive where nothing else can. But we don't hunt for power." He looked at her and smiled faintly. "We hunt to protect what's ours." Behind them, the sound of engines echoed faintly from the mountains. Human ships, small but fast, patrolling the sky. Earth wasn't isolated anymore. The signal from the first encounter had reached every outpost. Humans were awake now. In orbit, satellites recorded data and scanned for approaching ships. On the surface, old shelters were being rebuilt into defense zones. Not out of fear, but readiness. The man turned back toward the forest. Its endless canopy swayed in the wind, alive with unseen motion. The world seemed to breathe with him. "They think they saw the worst," he murmured. "They haven't even met the oceans yet." He placed his hand on Luna's head. "You'll show them, won't you?" Her eyes glowed brighter, a blue fire beneath the dusk. She let out a slow growl, the kind that rolled across the plains like distant thunder. Somewhere beyond the stars, the Council's fleets reorganized, building new ships and weapons, pretending bravery while shaking inside. They didn't know if the human was preparing for war, but they were. And still, none of them could forget his calm voice, his steady eyes, the way his small frame stood unmoved before monsters. In the darkness of space, whispers carried farther than light. The tiny human is waiting. Months passed, but the memory of Earth never faded. Every corner of the galaxy whispered the same story. The tiny human, his beast, and the world that frightened gods. The Council tried to control the news, deleting broadcasts, silencing witnesses. It didn't matter. Fear spreads faster than light. Still, the Council could not ignore the question that haunted them. What if Earth expands? And so, once again, a fleet gathered, larger, stronger, desperate. They called it Operation Dawn. The Council claimed it was for diplomacy, but everyone knew the truth. They wanted to prove the galaxy still ruled itself. As the fleet neared Earth, the planet looked quiet again. Too quiet. The blue sphere floated peacefully, its clouds glowing like soft silk. The alien commanders stared in silence. Some hoped the humans would surrender. Others prayed they wouldn't have to fight. A message appeared across every ship's comms. It wasn't a voice. It was text. 3 words. "You were warned." Then the stars went dark. The fleet's lights flickered. Instruments died. Communications cut off. For one endless minute, there was only silence. Until the sensors picked up something rising from below, thousands of heat signatures. Massive ones. The clouds split apart, and from the shadow of Earth came the things the galaxy had never seen. Not machines, but creatures. Gigantic winged predators, scaled serpents, and shapes that glowed like living storms. They filled the sky like an army born from the planet itself. The fleet panicked. "Defensive fire! Shields to maximum!" But it was no battle. It was a lesson. From the command ship's viewport, Captain Varric watched as the human appeared again, this time through a transmission broadcast on every channel. He stood at the edge of a cliff, wind howling around him, his white companion beside him, glowing brighter than the lightning behind them. "You still don't understand," the human said quietly. "We're not your enemies. We're the result of what happens when a world refuses to die." Behind him, the beasts of Earth roared, mountains trembling, oceans churning. The fleet scanners overloaded again. The human continued, voice steady. You call us Deathworlders. You're right. But you think that means we destroy? He looked up, eyes calm. It means we survive, no matter what comes. No matter who laughs. The screen flickered and his image vanished. Then, everything stopped. The creatures withdrew. The skies cleared. The systems rebooted. The fleet's power returned, but no one moved. Varric lowered his head. He understood now. The humans hadn't attacked. They'd only shown the truth, that the galaxy had mistaken survival for aggression and compassion for weakness. Stand down, he ordered quietly. We leave. As the fleet turned away, the officers stared at the small blue world on their screens. It seemed so peaceful, so ordinary. And yet, every one of them knew they'd looked into the heart of something far older and stronger than any empire. Back on Earth, the humans stood on the same cliff, watching the ships retreat through the atmosphere. Luna sat beside him, tail brushing the ground, her eyes reflecting the starlight. He smiled softly. They'll tell stories about this, she growled lightly, a sound that almost sounded like laughter. They'll call us monsters, he said. Let them. The truth will outlast their fear. He placed his hand on her head. Come on, girl. Time to go home. Together they walked into the forest. The same forest that hid 1,000 unseen eyes. The same world that had raised them both. The wind carried the distant cries of Earth's wild children, a song of life too fierce to tame, and as the stars shone above, the galaxy finally understood. The smallest human on the deadliest world had never been the threat. He had simply reminded the universe why humanity still existed, because on Earth even kindness learns how to survive.